It was only a minor hurricane, its first of the season, losing steam before it crossed the Florida coast. Hurricane winds yielding rapidly to rain as it headed north toward Georgia and the Carolinas, and downgraded even before it reached the Appalachians into nothing more than a tropical storm. Next day, over North Carolina, the storm picks up speed, intensity, crosses Virginia's Great Dismal Swamp, and then sweeps out to sea at Norfolk, gone and ready to be forgotten. Then Agnes surprises, changes her mind. Suddenly she loops inland again over New York State, meets a low-pressure front from Lake Erie, begins swinging like a giant wheel with Pennsylvania as the hub, and torrential rains start falling. From the Flood Forecasting Center at Harrisburg.
Widespread small stream flooding is expected tonight throughout the Susquehanna Basin, including the Juniata and West Branch. Main channels are well below flood levels, and no mainstream flooding is expected at this time.
90 miles north, at the Luzerne County Courthouse in Wilkes-Barre, 3 men meet in the Emergency Operating Center. General Frank Townend, the County Civil Defense Director. John McCormick, his deputy.
Some street flooding.
And their Executive Director, Nick Suchik.
Just small streams. Do you picture any special problems?
Only the levee at Plymouth. We still have a gap down there from the sewer line collapse.
Okay, let's get it filled in. Now, you know I've got to go down to that memorial service on the Jersey Shore tomorrow night, but I'll keep checking back with you.
200 miles south in the nation's capital, workmen are sandbagging the Washington Monument grounds against a rising Potomac. Just across the river in northern Virginia, flash flooding on small streams is beginning to drive hundreds from their homes. Fires are breaking out, with firemen often unable to reach them. In the morning.
Flood bulletin from the U.S. Weather Service at Harrisburg. Thursday, June 22nd. Severe local flooding is occurring in the Harrisburg area. Heavy rain is continuing and near disaster conditions are developing locally. Many families are being evacuated. Driving is hazardous and will continue so into this morning.
On his way to Jersey, a worried Frank Townend stops on the road, checks back with Nick Suchik.
It's getting critical, General. Harrisburg is predicting a 24-foot crest for tomorrow, and it could get worse. We're expecting at least 5 inches of rain.
Okay, Nick, I'll come back. Get the 109th alerted for that patrol on the dikes, and you better get in plenty of coffee and sandwiches.
In Virginia, rivers are rising rapidly toward full flood. On the old C&O Canal, just north of Washington, 2 youngsters decide to go sightseeing in a canoe, are swept away into a grove of trees. Rescue workers fire a line across the stream, begin trying to pull them to safety.
Tighten up that line. He's being dragged under. Get him up. Come on, pull.
The collar won't make it through the trees, but the force penetrator will.
bulletin for 9:30 p.m. Thursday, June 22nd. Record or near-record stages are being forecast through the entire Susquehanna River Valley. Towanda, Pennsylvania, 25.8 feet and rising. Wilkes-Barre, 20.6 feet and rising. Sunbury, 26.2 feet and rising. Williamsport.
By evening, Frank Townend is back in Wilkes-Barre. His entire staff mobilized for emergency duty at County Courthouse. With them, newscaster Dave DeCosmo, serving as liaison between civil defense and the local broadcasting stations, now reporting full-time on the growing crisis.
A dike in Plymouth that was never quite repaired after some mine subsidences causing very bad problems there.
At 11 o'clock,
General, the gap in the levee can't be raised above 32 feet.
That's serious. The forecast now is for 34 feet. That means we have to evacuate the people in Plymouth. John, here's what I want you to do. Go down to Plymouth and check with Burns and with George Davenport on the evacuation.
If you're in Plymouth or in those low-lying areas, get out now. Plymouth must be evacuated. You do have time. Don't panic. But please, leave now.
Everybody up! Everybody out!
Everybody out. What up, man? Everybody out. You have 2 hours to evacuate.
Everybody up! Everybody out!
2 hours to evacuate.
Plymouth is evacuated. And in the emergency operating center,
New record stages on the West Branch below Renovo are resulting from the record rains of the last 48 hours. On the North Branch at Towanda and Wilkes-Barre, crest stages will exceed all previous records by 6 to 8 feet.
I'm still skeptical. It seems to me there's something wrong up here. How about this 40-foot forecast? I don't quite believe it.
Jack, this is Nick. The river elevations at Towanda indicate that they're going to get about 33 feet.
If this is true, we're going to get about 40 feet down here.
Oh, my God.
If this happens,
We're going to get clobbered. We hope this is a mistake. Will you please check this with flood forecasting at Harrisburg and get back to me as soon as possible?
the question is relayed through state civil defense. And quickly, confirmation comes back. Big trouble upstream. Wilkes-Barre will face it tomorrow.
Okay, gentlemen, here's the situation now. The forecast is for 40 feet at sometime around 10 o'clock to noon this morning. We've got to get people out there and work on the dikes, get them built up as high as we can, with the hope that we may be able to hold it. Now, we're pretty pessimistic, and if White is right, we're not going to hold it. But it's better to try than not to do anything about it. The other thing we've decided is this, that we're not going to notify the people to get out until morning twilight. We don't want to take people and put them out in the streets in the pitch black right now where they won't know what's coming or what's happening. So this announcement's going to come out to the general public at 5 o'clock. Now, in the meantime, we're going to get the contractors and the gravel piles and the sand piles and the sandbags stored along the dike so that we can work much more rapidly as soon as we get the people out after 5 o'clock.
We're going to have to sandbag the levees, both sides of the river. We're going to need 100 trucks, Addy.
Sandbags, paper bags, plastic, anything you've got that'll hold sand.
Put this material on your porch and turn your porch light on.
I want 50 tons of sand at the Ross Street pumping station, and I want it there by 5 a.m.
At 4 in the morning, a 4-foot wall of water sweeps over the dikes at Corning, New York, and 17 people die there. The Chemung River rages on down through Elmira, Horseheads, Painted Post, flooding them all. On down to the Susquehanna. Flash flooding has put a bulge in the river at Harrisburg, too. And river rescue crews are pulling victims out of the water.
Welcome ashore.
There you go, Phil.
Are you all right?
Yeah, they chased me out of my warm bed.
You didn't want to come.
No, I was going to stay.
How long did you think you could stay there?
Well, let's put it this way. I've been there a little over 48 years. So I figured I'd stay a little longer.
At 5 a.m., first light. Townend goes on the air with the public warning.
This is very bad news for Wyoming Valley. We don't want to scare anybody, but the time is important. The forecast now is that the river is going to be higher than the dikes, that it's actually going to get to a crest of about 40 feet sometime between 8 o'clock and noon today. There's a possibility that we may contain it, but it's only a possibility. Now, the important thing is to get out of the low areas, but the next thing is this. We want volunteers to work on the dike.
Luzerne County Civil Defense is asking for 10,000 volunteers to assemble along the banks of the Susquehanna at 5 a.m. Bring shovels, wear your old clothes, be prepared to work to try and contain the river. Meet at the river banks. We need approximately 10,000 people.
Downstream, the time for sandbagging is past. Harrisburg. Wilkes-Barre is still holding out, but barely.
A very important announcement here. The sightseers, please leave East Market Street. The dikes are getting pretty bad now, and what they don't need is you hanging around.
Water is creeping up on the courthouse, backing up through the sewers, flooding the sub-basement and the emergency control center. The civil defense staff is forced to relocate upstairs. At 10:30, another warning.
This is General Townend, the civil defense at the courthouse. Now, if you haven't evacuated by now, you've got to get out. We're having trouble at the Riverside Drive area in Old River Road. Right now, the river's at the level of the dike, and it's pretty close to going over in the areas in Wilkes-Barre. We expect to have to blow the sirens pretty soon to call the people off the work on the dike. As of now, we're still holding and hoping.
An extreme emergency exists in the Wyoming Valley with heavy emphasis in the Wilkes-Barre area. They are expecting to lose the battle with the dike at any time.
At 10 after 11, John McCormick reports from the riverfront.
General, I'm down here on Riverside Drive, and as it now looks, we've had to clear it. The water is coming over. That's all we can do.
The city waits.
Get out now. Get out now. There's still time, but this is the warning that the river is starting to come over the dike.
Work on the dikes has ceased. The water is expected to break through. Keep your head about you. There are plenty of people around to help you out. You have places to stay. You will have food. You will have bedding. You will have everything. So don't panic. Just get yourself to safety as quickly as possible.
Unbelievable. South Wilkes-Barre completely inundated with water. You can't even see a road, a side road, an alley, a back street, or a backyard. The water is cresting at the first floor of many of the homes in the South Wilkes-Barre section. All it is muddy Susquehanna.
Wilkes-Barre Police, anyone who has a boat, requested to bring it to the police department.
80,000 people have been evacuated safely, thanks to the warnings. But a few stragglers still remain.
Police are manning boats all up and down South Main Street here, shouting instructions to many of the volunteers, the civil defense workers, who are scrambling, trying to make a way out of this, what's turning out to be a real crisis situation for the south of Wilkes-Barre. There were some explosions reported. There's a fire over in another section of town. The smoke is still billowing into the air, and there's still no report that firemen have been able to get to that place in any great number.
Civil Defense calls on the Naval Reserve Center at the airport for help.
Okay, Tower, this is Navy Control. Where's the whereabouts of your Beaver aircraft for firefighting? We'll need all aircraft in the vicinity of downtown Wilkes-Barre. They can't get any engines in.
Calls for help keep pouring in.
We have a report of 4 people on a rooftop, corner of Church and Rudder, Kingston.
Kingston. Okay, get Tower. I think we have an HS-2 aircraft working the Wyoming area. Roger, Tower's going to free him up. I need him to Rudder and Church for a pickup of 4 people on a rooftop. On a rooftop.
Father Jordan, it looks like here, announces that St. Jude's Mountaintop has facilities and shelter for people who need a place to stay up in the mountaintop area, and you'll find plenty of food, shelter, and what have you right there.
Red Cross shelters are now open at the GAR High School, Grant and Lehigh, the East End Primitive Church, Kidder Street, the Army Reserve Center, Route 315.
Is it fun or is it bad? Is it sad?
Fun.
She has a different attitude.
Well, she's young. She don't understand what it's all about. But it's a sad thing, you know, losing everything that you have like that.
By nightfall, there's no longer a river and a valley. The river has become the valley. All the great rivers are in full flood. The Susquehanna, the Schuylkill, the Allegheny, and the Upper Ohio. And in Virginia, the James. The city of Richmond is deep underwater. Its second flood of the century in just 3 years. But this time, the civil defense planning and preparation that followed Hurricane Camille will cut the death toll from 151 dead or missing in that earlier disaster to just 13 in this one. And Wilkes-Barre still flooded out. Across the river, so are Kingston, Plymouth, 40 Fort. Kingston, worst of all, of its 6,600 homes, only 20 are still above water. With water ringing the courthouse, the emergency center has moved again to a school board building on a hill across town.
P-46 Command. P-46 to Command, I've now established that the Civilian Defense Center down at Wilkes-Barre.
Already, General Townend has called a meeting of local leaders to coordinate their efforts in the weeks ahead.
At the meeting now, we've got engineers and medical, fire chiefs, police, military, the Red Cross, we've got county officials, and we've got city, borough, and township officials. On the question of curfews, we're going to have to keep people out of those areas that were flooded. Now, Bob, do you think we've got enough military here to be able to accomplish that?
Yes, sir. We have 400 men from the 109th Artillery that we can put on the street, and we have another battalion on the way in to take care of the east side.
Help from the outside is on the way, too. The military, with men, equipment, supplies. every available helicopter within flying distance, Army, Navy, Air Force, Coast Guard, is being called in for emergency service. And planes are pouring in with thousands of tons of supplies. 2 main distribution points are established, too. One at the airport, the other at the Pocono Downs racetrack in Wilkes-Barre. Food, clothing, emergency equipment of every kind.
We have a generator up at Pocono.
The generator, 25 kW generators for Retreat Hospital.
Control, Navy Control, where's your Chinook working? Right, single point suspension, it's the generator.
Finally, the flood is gone, leaving fish flopping in the streets of Kingston. And everywhere, mud, sour, stinking mud. Downtown, the trash goes out by the ton, while people with nothing pick through the mess, trying to salvage something. Suddenly, going home's become a bitter thing.
When I first opened the door, this was the worst moment of all. You see everything topsy-turvy where it had floated up to the ceiling and then down again. And it is a real horror.
Everything is gone. Oh, God, what are we going to do? Come on, you can do it. Oh, what are we going to do? Come on.
People are just now beginning to realize just exactly how little they have left. When you see that yellow stuff pouring right through a beautiful home, well, I'm telling you what, break your heart. Really break your heart.
In Luzerne County alone, more than 10,000 homes have been under a dozen feet of water. Only 2 had flood insurance. And rebuilding seems an overwhelming task.
We don't want to give it up, but you can only do so much. And just how much can a human being's body take, and how much of a mental strain can they take at the same time, worrying about what they're going to do and where do we go from here?
You need a little bit of help.
We need a lot of help.
We need help now. I mean, it isn't a little creek that overflowed. It's a whole valley that's destroyed.
I have 6 more years to go on the mortgage.
How are you going to get the money to rebuild?
That is undetermined as yet. I have to wait and see what the federal government's going to give, what the state government's going to give, if they're going to give anything.
Help of every kind is needed, and many are too old, too sick to walk very far to find it. To meet the emergency, hundreds of federal and state disaster workers are rushed in. Disaster assistance centers are set up to provide one-stop service, one place where people can come for whatever they need. Emergency medical help, mops and brooms for cleanup, food stamps, surplus foods, legal assistance, unemployment insurance, re-employment aid, small business loans on generous terms, other loans to rebuild ruined homes and replace lost personal possessions at extremely low interest. And for those who've literally lost everything, house trailers rent-free for a year. In the year ahead, the federal government will spend more than $3 billion for relief and reconstruction. Wilkes-Barre has been hardest hit of all, and so the White House sends a special representative, Frank Carlucci, born in this town, to organize and speed the rescue effort. And the Army Corps of Engineers will have its work cut out, removing millions of tons of debris. Helping the Department of Housing and Urban Development set up trailer villages for the homeless, building temporary spans over smaller streams.
This is a mess. It's a real mess.
You scrub and clean and carry mud. But it's on the walls, it's on everything.
terrible thing. It makes you want to take a match to it.
All ladies with hair dryers in the Wilkes-Barre-Kingston area are urged to contact the telephone company. They are needed to dry out delicate electronic equipment so service can be restored.
I don't see where they're going to live here for at least 3 to 6 months, at least. The smell has got to dry out. It stinks in here.
And that's something to smell at.
I bet you'll be glad when this is all over.
Woo-hoo! Oh, I certainly am a mess.
Listen, you kind of took a beating, didn't you?
We certainly did.
Did you lose everything in the house?
Everything from top to bottom. Just a little of our roof was sticking out.
But we'll manage somehow. We're thankful for the years that we did have. We can remember them maybe, you know. Just the kids had a chance, now it would be all right.
In time, the mud will dry into dust with no improvement. Thick, choking clouds of dust that have to be hosed down, washed away. For many, it's been a total disaster.
Well, again, I thank God for a man like General Townend who made the decision when he did to evacuate the area. Otherwise, there would have been hundreds of lives lost.
Did you have any idea anything like this would ever happen?
Never. I never thought I'd see the water come over that dike.
So you do think it'll happen again?
Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yeah.
And now the question is, get out or go on?
I'm definitely leaving. I like the neighborhood. I like the people that I live around, but once is an experience.
It comes down to the tragedy of walking in and seeing what's left of a lifetime.
Terrible experience, terrible feeling. You've lost everything, so let it go.
You know that attitude changes. Every day when you come back, you find, well, maybe there is a chance, and you get a little more hope each day.
We're going to stay. We're like old General MacArthur. I will return. Yes, sir. We're going to stay.